Hi guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and today we're doing my top 5 worst Legend of Zelda bosses. Now, the Legend of Zelda has been known to produce some wonderful bosses, or fantastic bosses like Zan from Twilight Princess, Coloctus from Skyward Sword, and various other bosses that are quite fun and entertaining to play against. And it has been well known that the Zelda games has made some of the worst boss fights. And I'm going to be talking about some of the ones that I don't really quite like, or ones that just not that great to play against. So for number 5 is the Anglerfish from Link's Awakening. Now, when you enter the Anglerfish's boss room, I guess, all you do is basically attack its glowing thingy, like that's basically on the top of its head, and just basically the entire boss fight. It does occasionally summon its children, especially in the remake for the Switch, but the only thing you have to do is basically attack its head section around here with the whole glowy thingy. I don't know what it's called, but yeah. For number 4 is Tantalus from Skyward Sword. Now, Tantalus is basically that monster lady from Monsters Inc. with the whole snake hair, even going to the whole snake hair thing in the second phase. And all you need to do is basically just whack your sword and basically use arrows on its eye. That's basic Zelda gameplay, but against a giant tentacle monster thing that has snakes for hair. For number 3 is Gorg from Majora's Mask. Now, the Gorg, especially in the original version for the Nintendo 64, isn't that really much of a great boss, because all you do is basically try and attack its body and then just use the Zora Mask, which basically just attack Gorg with your barrier attack. Now, in the 3DS remake, it does, like a lot of the other boss fights, have that giant eye, but in its mouth, and you do have to attack the eye as well. And in the 3DS remake, for the second phase, it does attack the platform and lower it, but that doesn't really much help, in a way, because you still need to try and not only attack Gorg from a lot of different areas, but also try and make sure that your magic is up, so you can attack Gorg. Yeah, so yeah. For number 2, and I know this is another water type boss, but it's Morphle from Twilight Princess. Now, Morphle is basically very simple. Just for the first phase, basically just use the iron boots, the claw shots, and the Zora armor. Basically, grab its eye and then just whack it with your sword. Then, after you've done that a few times, it'll go into its second form, which is basically this giant, well, it's basically a giant eel type thing, and basically just hook shot onto the eye, and then just whack it 3 times, well, a bunch of times, but do this 3 times, and that's not really the best. So, just whack, just keep on whacking it until it's dead, which gives you the last few shadows. So yeah. And for number 1, the Blight Ganon forms from Breath of the Wild. Now, I know that Breath of the Wild is a really great game, but the Blights to me don't feel much of a challenge. The only challenging one that I can think of is probably Thunderblade Ganon, and the only reason for this is because it's the fastest one of the Blights. And the Blights aren't even that much of a challenge, because they're basically a part of the divine beast that you're up in. So, for example, Water Blight Ganon uses the water to elevate different platforms. Fire Blight Ganon basically does some sort of King Dodongo type attack, where it basically brings in the heat, and you have to use one of your own bombs, and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's just the Blights aren't really that much of a challenge if you know how to fight against them. And I'm hoping for the sequel for Breath of the Wild 2 that Nintendo brings some of the classic bosses back for that game. So apart from like Ganondorf, who'll be the big bad and the final boss in that game, but I would like to see them bring in like, you know, Goma, King Dodongo, and several other bosses for that game. But for me, the Blights in Breath of the Wild aren't really the best bosses that Zelda have seen, but still enjoyable in some parts, but they feel a bit samey, like just fighting a different version of Ganon, really. Just not really the best. So that's been my top 5 worst Legend of Zelda bosses. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell for more notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.